Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And today we're talking to Joel Kean from Aquadreamz. Joel is a pool builder based in Melbourne, and there's some of the things he talks about in this which relate quite a lot to landscaping. Like one of the things he mentions is back in his early days, he was working, it felt like he was working just to keep other people employed. So he's working really hard and not getting the benefits out of it. So he restructured his business, and now it's a lot slimmer, working with just him and his folks, and he's working less and making just as much or more money and a lot less headaches. So good hearing that part of it. He also talks about the process of designing pools. So in terms of he doesn't quote a project unless there's a design for it, because it just makes it too much of a grey area. You're not necessarily quoting against someone on the same project because they might do things differently. So that was a good thing that related to landscaping as well. And we also spoke about an Instagram post that he did where he mentioned a pool that had leaked and how much great feedback he got from that about people just because they appreciated how open and honest he was about it and how everyone could relate. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Joel Kean. So Joel, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. The first question I got for you is how you started in the pool and landscaping industry.
Thank you, Joel. No, it's a privilege. Look, it goes back to when I was 19, actually. It started with meeting my now wife at a convention in Sydney. And we done the long distance thing for a few months. And then after 6 months, we decided to take it a bit further. So I moved up. And I had a friend who had recently moved up, working up around Brisbane doing Pebblecrete pool interiors. They had a position going for someone to do the acid washing of these interiors. So I had a job to go to, accommodation sorted. So I've moved up out of home at 19. And that's essentially the start. Acid washing, Pebblecrete, and then progressed to mixing, trailing, and then pool renovations, and done that for 2 years up around Brisbane and Sunshine Coast area.
Nice.
So essentially chasing, I was chasing skirt originally, yes.
A couple of stories might start like that. That's fine. But so how did it progress from there? Was it were you working for the same company when you started doing more of the pool build projects?
I was with the first company for a year or so. It was a bit tough financially. I'd moved into my own little flat. It was per job as a contractor. So in the winter months, we'd maybe only do 1-2 pools a day, whereas in summer we do 5-6 pools a day. So it was extremely seasonal. I mustn't have been too bad at what I did. I got asked over to another company for more money. And at that time, I needed it. I took it. But it was a very valuable lesson because very early on, I realized that more money is not the better option. The grass isn't always greener. The company, when I say company, the personnel that I worked with, it wasn't fun anymore. It just, took the enjoyment out of it. So that was a very, very good lesson early on. So done 2 years of that, and then I was a bit of a hoon when I was young, and I lost my license in Queensland, and I had to move back home down in Victoria with my parents for that period for 6 months.
Back home with a tail between your legs.
Yeah, a little bit. Look, it was probably a lesson I needed. But yes, so I'd done work back in because my parents had a furniture business making solid timber. So that's what I did when I was out of school and school holidays. So I worked back with my father and for about that 6 months, and then got back into the interiors and renovations for a company in Melbourne. Again, another valuable lesson, what not to do. Their attitude was get in, get out, get paid. Quality was second to, if you get a sale, take it, deal with how you're going to get it done later. And it went against everything that I probably was brought up with, the morals and principles that my parents instilled in me. Just didn't gel right. My wife moved down, we got married, and worked for a pool building company. Very knowledgeable builder, very good builder, very hard. In hindsight, it was good. I soaked it up, and I always had the intention of working for myself from when I was at high school. But he wasn't a people person, often got clients in tears, had blues with contractors, had a temper on him, So that lasted a year, and then I decided I'm going out my own at 20. I was 22 when I started Aquadreamz doing pool renovations and pool interiors.
So what year was that?
That would have been 2007, around there, yeah.
And was it, like, there seems to be a lot of pool builders around now. What was it like then? Was there a lot around, or was it more a rare thing to find a concrete pool builder?
No, there was still plenty around, but it was more of your core group that have been around for many decades, even before then, who are still building now and have that reputation. There certainly wasn't the number of pool builders that have come from other industries, whether it was house builders, landscapers. I'm seeing even, electricians and concreters and all sorts having a go, but the demand's there. The calibre of pool in Melbourne has always been a bit higher, I suppose, than other states. So even back then, pools with in-floor cleaning, fully tiled was extremely common, but there was probably a few more cowboys back then too.
So did you say you were doing just renovations, or were you doing new pools as well to start with?
No, I specialise in concrete pool renovations. So at the start, it was just myself doing everything. So a typical renovation back then was strip the pool, whether it be waterline tiles, new render interior. We progressed to doing more advanced renovations, whether it be all new filtration, pipe run, core drilling, and then it evolved into changing the structural shape of the pools, changing the size of the pools, all sorts. Adding skimmers was becoming quite standard for us, and that was what we probably started our reputation with, was renovations.
So did you need a building license for what you were doing?
At the time, I wasn't aware that we did, but yes, we did. So back then, there was limitations based on the financial value of the project. So back then, from memory, it was if the job was over $5,000 in value for multiple tasks, then you needed to be a registered builder using a domestic builder's contract. And if it was over $12,000 from memory, you needed to be eligible for home warranty insurance or builder's warranty insurance. It's now increased to 10 and 16. I've always been one to do the right thing, and definitely don't have time for people that do the wrong thing. And I went to a Master Builders Association Victoria seminar. I honestly can't remember what it was about, but I learnt there that what I was doing was technically not legal. At that point, I was dabbling in owner-builder builds, and I thought I was protected because I wasn't the licensed builder. I was working under an owner-builder, but the sheer value of what I was doing didn't protect me. So I started the process of gaining my builder's license.
How long did that take to go about getting that?
Look, I've done it in my own time over a 2-year period. So I started the process in 2010 and I got my license in 2012. I had a little bit of help from Master Builders. I had a point of contact there, and it was a lot of paperwork. Some of it may, and still is, probably irrelevant, but it was part of what was required. It's a bit daunting. It was I was told anyway, 2-hour interview in front of 2 panelists. This is after you've done your online test. And in the end, it was actually a very quick interview with one fella, and it was quite painless.
Yeah, it sounds similar to mine. So my application was 142 pages that I submitted, and I got help from the Master Builders as well. So they were awesome to deal with. So they basically, went in there for a day, they'd tell you everything you need to include in your application, and then you submit it to them. And then they say, yeah, this is fine. You need to add this and this, and then it'll be fine to submit to the VBA. And yeah, my interview as well was it wasn't too long, because I think they just need to talk to you and work out if you know what you're talking about and you know what you're doing. So if they're comfortable with that, then then the rest is pretty straightforward. Yeah,
I got the sense it wasn't so much focused on how exactly do you build a pool. It's how are you going to conduct yourself as a business? How are you going to manage your finances? Are you going to serve the consumer well, your suppliers well? Have you got your head screwed on, basically? And second to that was how to build a pool.
So when did you start doing pools from scratch?
It was a few years later. We carried on doing renovations, and then a few more owner builds. And then once I got my license, we took on a few builds under our own banner. Almost instantly, I applied to become then it was known as Spas of Victoria. They had quite a stringent set of guidelines and checklists to become what they call a full pool builder member. So back then it was 10 pools using a Spa Victoria contract. They all had to be in good standing with the client, done to a professional manner, and they would follow up with the owners to see how the process was. Because we're doing so many renovations, it took me 2 years to get those 10 pools under my belt to then be eligible to apply to be a full pool builder, which would enable me to use the logos for branding and yeah.
So it's good. It's good that there's associations like that. You can't just pay money to get the badge, because that's kind of defeats the purpose of what they're all about, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, there is some out there that are like that, but I like to think that look, it's definitely helped my company and my growth in the industry. You connect with people that are in the same boat, one that have been in it longer than I've been alive, and they're more than willing to share their information, which I thought was brilliant. So I've adapted that myself as well. So, and I'm still learning every day. I'm still considered probably a younger builder. I'm 37, but to my surprise, I get calls from builders too for advice, and I'll share it because I think it helps the whole industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you go about getting the work to start with? Like when you went out on your own, like the first renos?
Very start, I actually got a website, a logo. I look back at the logo now and I think it's hideous, but
mine still is as well. But I didn't come up with mine. But yeah, I don't think that they mean as much as what a lot of people, the effort people put into it.
No, it was look, it started off with internet traffic. I managed my own Google AdWords account. So whether it was 5, 10, 20 bucks a day and try and target a certain demographic, and that definitely got a boost of work. Before AdWords, well, for us, it ended up being a bad way of going about business because competitors could what's called click you out. I don't think that's really a thing now, but back then people would, and I know for a fact, some would get up in the morning, click in and out of competitors' sponsored links in Google until their budget's been consumed for the day, and then go to work. You'd know because you'd be going through your budget with not one inquiry. But no, that kind of snowballed, and then we got our own word of mouth. I went to the effort of handwriting, I reckon, a good 100+ letters, and either hand delivered or posted them to every pool shop I could find in, I think it was white or yellow pages back then, and just offering my services and, you know, introducing myself, and that started a few relationships which lasted years. So I do get a lot of referrals from pool shops. And
did you go about putting staff on relatively early, or did you just subcontract stuff out?
No, I did. Second year business, I put a fella on, and it was just me and him, and it was a lot of, with renovations, it's very labor intensive because you're basically having to undo the work to be then redo the work and do it better or properly. But it was also, because I was on the tools full time, I was then doing all the paperwork at night. This is before I had a child, so it wasn't so bad, but you do burn out after a while. But no, I was probably on my own for the first year, and then we've always had at least one. We grew to the point of having 5 with a fully qualified landscaper to do our own coping and paving. And then there was a point where we decided to completely remodel the business and focus on boutique construction.
So why was that? Were you just sort of churning out jobs, and is that why you changed the
Yeah,
structure?
There was a point where it was a winter, and this is going back about 5 years maybe, and the renovations, well, back then anyway, the demand's high now, but it was a bit seasonal, and I found myself working around the clock just to make sure there was consistent work to pay wages and keep the guys busy. And I was never really able to take a day off when I wanted, because if I did, I'd have to make up for it the following, and, you know, work back. Couldn't take a holiday when I wanted, and I was just working, and got to realization, I'm killing myself here for no benefit of myself, just to keep things ticking over. I felt like we're at the point where we probably could just cut off the renovations, and focus on the boutique building. So, yeah, I was with the help of my parents. I've probably got to go back a bit too. And after about 2-3 years of starting the business, I knew how to renovate a pool, but to run the financial side of things is a whole different story. Got myself into tax debt. My parents sold their furniture business and they actually came across and joined me. My mother has always been in accounting, got me out of a hole and we worked out of it. So I wouldn't be here without their help. And they're still with me now. So my father is my 2IC, the main man on site, and mum takes care of the accounts 2 days a week in the office.
That's awesome. And does it feel, and so once you restructured the company, then you're able to have more flexible hours and still making the same or more money than what you were beforehand?
That's how it started. Yeah, it was like a weight off my shoulders. It was noticed by my peers and people around me that I was a bit more relaxed, which you don't really think that you're any different, but it obviously was quite evident. And yeah, it did start off like having that bit more balance, but then the business grows. So probably now, look, it's a bit different now too, because this is just different times than what we've ever been used to. But the pressure I feel now is as much, if not more, than what it is pre-Christmas.
Yeah, right. Is that just to get the jobs done?
That, but it's more so at the moment, the inquiries. COVID has certainly had its negatives and its positives. The demand, and you'll probably find this yourself too, the demand out there is crazy, and the rate of inquiry I'm really struggling to stay on top of. It irks me that I can't even follow up with every, this is so many inquiries a day. It's just astounding, and it goes against my nature too, because communication for me is my biggest asset and thing that I try to stay on top of. But it's getting tougher at the moment because we're just stretched so thin.
No, yeah, I've been saying, I've got a note on my website saying that we're not taking on any work for this year on our contact us page where people would usually submit inquiries, because I can't just have someone inquire and then not answering back. So to save me from emailing someone saying that, I just put a note on the website. So I'll say, yeah, a few people are in the same boat.
Yeah. I did have a voicemail last year for a few months to say that we're booked to mid-2022, and I'm probably very soon going to have to change my voicemail to now say we're booked for 2022 entirely.
Yeah.
It's crazy to be talking about this in start of February, but this is where we're at.
Yeah. So the projects you're working on now are pretty amazing, in my opinion. So were the first pools that you were doing, were they more basic? I suppose the concrete pools aren't that basic, but were they a lot different to what you're doing now?
Yeah, they are to a degree. The mum and dad jobs, for us anyway, we don't find we get them as often as we used to, but that's probably what we started with. Your simple pools, always generally fully tiled though. In-floor cleaning was always something that we done a lot of. So I probably started at a higher level than your rendered pools. We've still done a few, mind you, they have their place. But yeah, look back, I was just saying to my contractors this morning, we don't actually get much opportunity for those simple pools like we used to. And I miss it, to be honest, because you're dealing with, mum and dad clients that you have a bit more personal interaction with, they have a bit more appreciation, there's a relationship there. They appreciate the value of time and money, and there's a lot less management involved, and you're in and you're out.
So do you do much of the designs of the pools yourself, or is it a combination? Because I imagine some designers who would contact you would already have designed it themselves, but do you do much in the design?
Not these days, no. Years ago, yeah, we did get more involved, and that was, I think now design has almost taken over, where we're at a point where we'll tell 99% of our inquiries, until you've got a design, then we'll look at the project. And if you haven't got a design, then here's some contacts for designers that we recommend and work with to then get that design done and explain advantages and requirements why design is needed. And then we'll have a further conversation.
Yeah, it makes sense. Because I find whenever we're working on a project, there's not a designer, it's a basic one. It ends up adding time, and it's a nightmare to deal with. So it'd be just about impossible for you to quote one without the design. Is that why you do it?
Yeah, that's probably one reason. It's trying to be apples to apples too. The pool builders can have their own way of doing things and their own materials and spec, and you know, we're all very, I think, fixed in the way we do things to a degree. So you can have the same pool drawn and 3 wildly different quotes, but if there's not even a design, then I'll come out, give my 2 cents about what you should do, and then the next builder comes out and there's a different opinion about what should be done. Then they've got 3 quotes that are wildly different, but they're not even the same design. So it's very hard for them to even make an educated decision which way to go. There's an expectation in here as to then what's delivered physically is not matching. Then it can cause conflict. It was not what was expected, wasn't communicated properly. I think design yes, it's an investment at the start, but for a lot of the projects now, it's a very small percentage of the overall job. It ensures that the budget is established very early on. That's probably the biggest thing that I tell the clients, that you need to be very frank, and it's not a taboo subject. The designer needs to know that. So, because if it's not said, then it's assumed there isn't one. Then you can get something designed that is amazing, you fall in love with it, then you realize you can't afford it, and then anything else is just subpar and you're disappointed. And every contract is quoting off the same spec.
Yeah. So yeah, there's 3 pools I was going to bring up with you, because they're just 3 of the recent ones that just blow me away that you've done. But 2 of them I'm pretty sure by Lily Sabo. So the first one was that one, I think it was on a recent pool cover magazine. It's like a kidney shape with sandstone crazy paving around it. Is it hard doing a curve pool like that?
We're actually doing one at the moment, so it's a very relevant subject. They're different. You've got a little bit more tolerance, I suppose, because what you've got on plan to what you physically do on site, you know, it's never going to be to the mill, whereas you can be a lot more precise with the full shape pool. But they're fun. They're different. You got a bit more freedom of expressing, I think, too. And it looks, to me, it's more like what a pool should look like, feels like. You look at nature and you look at all the water holes, waterways, you never see a rigid, straight line, formal set. They're always quite natural looking. So I think that too just appeals to how it works with water. It's quite natural.
Yeah. And the other one you did for her, I think it might have been in Williamstown, but it's got a curved glass wall that makes up part of the pool. It's like, look it up on there, so it's raised out of the ground. Was that one of the more complex ones you've done?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
No, it was complex for many reasons. The access was one. That's actually in Hawthorne, and it's split over 3 tiers. The rear access and the rear laneway was a 3-meter drop from a laneway down to the tennis court. So we had to get a ramp engineered, designed, and then built to get materials down from the top end, which went down a single flight of steps after that. And then from the street frontage, it was up from the driveway to a balcony. So everything was forklifted up. It was interesting. We had chutes for the demolishing stage of it, because it was actually an existing pool that we partially demolished, then built a new pool on top of the old one. Yeah, it was the window. I think that was my first window, actually.
Oh, right. So it's not a bad first one.
Yeah, it was extremely nerve-wracking the day of install, because we had to build the rebate for the window 4 months before the window was even made, I believe. That was a 5-month wait for the window to be made. Big credit to Pool Windows for that one. That was, to my knowledge, the largest window they could fit in an oven for one singular piece to be curved. A lot of finances riding on that placement too, but credit to all the contractors involved. Yeah, it fit like a glove, and the rest is history. But yeah, at the time, it was not a fun job.
What size was that window?
Well, viewable area is 900 mil high, and I think in total linear was about 7. I think
7 meters.
Right. Yeah, from memory. Yeah.
Jeez, I didn't realize it was that big.
Yes. Yeah. No, quite long.
Yeah. So when you saw the design for that, did you freak out and think, how the hell am I going to do this? Or
no, well, it started. So I got referred from the pool service technician to renovate the pool, because it started because the house wraps around the pool on 3 sides, but the house was all open to the pool, and to the current standards, that can't be done. And I said to him, if I touch this pool, then I've got a liability attached, and I'm obligated to inform you that these are the current requirements, and you're going to have to make it retrospectively compliant if we renovate this pool. And these are the reasons why, and etc. So then I said, and it would have felt horrible having the house door fence pulled. So I floated the idea of building something else on top, because the pool was extremely tight and old and leaking, and they had a basement car park adjacent, so it was risky. So then I got Lily Sabo from Sabo Design involved, and Ben Wilson from Garden Constructions. And it was basically just a three-way between us all, site meetings, and Lily worked her magic and talked about how we're going to do it. And it was really a good three-way team approach, actually.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to do it too. And the other one I've been impressed by more recently, I think it was Steve Taylor from Cos Design designed it. The one, it's in Kilsyth, with the sort of water slide going into the pool.
Yes.
Was that Cos Design, that one?
Yes, it was. Yes.
So
you can,
did you have much input in that?
Without knowing who it is, and you can normally go, yes, that is a Cos Design, and he's certainly got his flavour on it. Yes.
Is that the first water slide you built?
Yes. I don't think you get many opportunities to build a concrete water slide. Yeah, it was interesting. Look, I had a bit of an idea in my head, but to be honest, there was no fixed way you were definitely going to build this. It was a matter of trial and error on site, working with the client with profiles. Yeah, I had many different widths and depths and shapes, and I had them CNC routed, and then we had the client pretend to basically sit in them, and we worked very closely with the steel fixers. And yeah, it was very much a trial and error, and just build it as we go scenario. So would I do another one? Don't know. Definitely charge a lot more. But look, looking back, financials aside, it's an experience. It's something that not many others have done. The contractors all involved killed him. The tiling of that, electric just nailed it. We had to make sure there was no cuts. These are glass tiles, so if there was any sharpness at all, kids are going to know about it. So it was also high risk.
So did that take you long also, because that's one of the challenges with pool building, because there's a lot of subcontracting that you do for it. Has it taken you a while to get reliable trades like your steel fixers and tilers and that sort of thing?
Look, at the start, I've always had the mentality of being loyalty based, even from when I started business. And that was probably something that was instilled in me from that pool builder that I worked for when I first came back down to Melbourne. Didn't pan out the way I had imagined at the start. Like, yes, I've certainly got relationships that I've got 15 or 17 years later that I started, but loyalty based doesn't always serve you as well as what I'd hoped. And you kind of learn to, I suppose, put up with certain things or suppliers or whatnot, because that's all you know, and scared of maybe for change. But by and large, yeah, I've had the same contractors for years, and if you look after them, they look after you. I've been extremely fortunate. I think too, we have a bit of a reputation for looking after our contractors. We don't string them out for payment. We look, just generally treat people the way you treat yourself. It's just a very simple principle, I think.
Yeah, it is simple, and it's so effective though as well, because that's how everyone wants to be treated. Have you got any systems that you use for work, like any apps to keep track of everything or organise everything?
Probably not as much as I should do. It's one of my goals this year, actually, is to get a bit more systemised, work on my time management. I'm very old school with a diary, handwritten diary. It works for me. Just very recently, and recently as last week, I missed a meeting, which was the second meeting with this designer that I'd missed, and it was really, really gut-wrenching, really, that feeling of, oh no, I've missed it. Like, and I was trying to rely on a bit of technology and didn't work out. Did write in my diary, and so something I've definitely got to work on. But no, I'm old school with, I've got a very systemized Excel for my quote calculations. But yeah, look, we're only a very small business too. So it's myself, my mother and father, and it's our contractors. So we're not a huge company that, not like we used to have all sorts of timesheet apps and project management apps. It's now that we've downsized the size of our company, not so required.
Yeah. Now you mentioned spas, are they called the Master Pool Builders Association? Is that what they are now?
Yeah, Master Poolers Association of Australia. So,
and
yes,
so you're not just a member of them, are you? Are you on the board or something more involved there?
I'm currently acting as president.
Oh, sorry. There's a bit more on the board.
Yeah, no, I've been involved on the board now for, I think, close to 5 years, and I was elected late last year.
So congratulations.
Very much a privilege and an honour. Didn't see it coming, wasn't aspiring for it. I just personally was on the board to give back. It's an industry that I'm very passionate for, and, you know, if I can have a positive influence, I can. And, you know, I've got a lot of experience around the table, a lot of maturity there that I'm also learning from, and they'd all done stints at the head of the table, and I think it was just really from their end anyway, it was a logical choice.
So what sort of messages does the Master Pool Builders try and push? There's no Landscape Victoria, they're all about getting all the landscapers registered because there's not enough of them are. But what sort of things do the pool builders do?
Yeah, well, that's one of them, is making sure that the industry is operating at a point where we're compliant with everything that we're obligated to on a legal standpoint. So for you to become for instance, a pool builder member, you do need to be registered as a building practitioner, and you need to have your CDBL, which is a company domestic builders license. So there's a few checklists there. But it's also just promoting the industry for the builders through the consumers. Some may see it as a governing body, so to speak, but we're not there to police the industry. We're there to build the industry, support those that are in it, essentially, yeah.
All right. And what's coming up next year, or sorry, this year for Aquadreamz?
Some very exciting projects. Probably less is more. With the sheer amount of demand, we're able to probably be a little bit more choosy as to how far we go. It's some projects that, yeah, you know, only 2 years ago I wouldn't have dreamed of building. I keep telling myself that, you know, we don't need to take on all these fancy projects, but these days it's all that comes across our table. It's probably something I need to acknowledge, is something to be proud of, I suppose. It's yeah, look, we do have some big changes coming up in 2 years. I can't say too much at the moment, but you know, that's kind of influencing to what we do and how we do. But yeah, just basically focusing on the right kind of client and just really being streamlined.
So what is it, have you ever done a cantilever pool or anything like that? Is there anything fancy that's coming up that you haven't done before?
We have done a cantilever pool over in Rye, actually. And they had 3 windows into a man cave and car park, and things that we haven't done before. Oh, look, there's plenty. It's hard to think of them all. Ironically, it's quite amazing. We haven't done a wet deck pool yet. Pretty much done everything else. I'm sure it's going to come our way sooner or later. We've seen a lot of round spas this year, and freeforms coming back. So we're doing one at the moment. We've got another one in Fingal coming up, which I'm excited about. I mean, even throwing in a few curves in formal pools, generally works.
Have you got a favourite one that you've built over the years?
Ooh, that's a good one. Probably that freeform in Blegaria you mentioned with the natural stone. We had the Castlemaine crazy slate inside the pool, in the pool, and that was probably fun because of who we were working with too there, with Formed and Savo, and the client gave us extremely loose control in terms of, he gave us a photo and said, this is the brief, you do what you want, I don't want to see it until it's finished. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but we want to make sure that you're happy with it. So he was a bit of an eccentric character, but that was good fun, probably. It's a hard one. I think for me personally, the most memorable are not so much the projects themselves, but the clients we work with. You know, I've got clients now that I'm still in touch with years later. Yeah, I think for me, it's more of the relationships.
And something else I wanted to commend you on as well is an Instagram post you did late last year talking about how everyone has pool legs, so there's nothing to be ashamed of. And that's around about that same time last year, I had a pool. We were doing work around our pool, and it was raised up out of the ground. And someone had come along and was drilling into the side of it. And I should have told them where the pipes were, and I didn't. And so I had to. So they've gone through the air filter with their drill bit. So I had to jackhammer off part of the pool and repair the pipe with an elbow going up. And I was pretty fortunate that I was able to fix it. Because that was a nightmare potentially, but I got onto it pretty quick. But yeah, that's something I saw. I was happy to say that you mentioned as well, because if you're in pool building for a long time, you're going to have issues.
That's right, and you can do everything you can to try and avoid it. And that job was a classic example. As a bit of insurance, we pressure test every one of our pools after the pots have been run to the filtration area as well. We've done this one twice over, before spray, after pipe run, by a third-party professional pressure testing company. We spent over $2,000 specifically to make sure that our work was rigid edge when it was completed. And, when you've got a job site with multiple trades working in the same area, things happen. Typically, it's star pickets from concreters. That's the most common. But we don't have it too often, to be honest. It probably comes down to the communication too, making sure that everyone on site's aware of what's where. Our contractors, especially our pool plumber, knows to take myriads of photos for reference, which can be a saviour. That particular job, it was probably more disappointing because of not just the scale of the job, but the time of the year it was, the pressure, the expectations, and then not knowing where it was, what the cause was. We were confident it wasn't our own doing, and we know exactly where it is now. It's been repaired, but it's never easy. So, but
I've worked on ones before where they've had to jackhammer out like a section in the pool because they can work out where the leak is. There's no idea how it happens afterwards, after the pool's gone in, but this one, I think the water was already in, and started leaking out there. So luckily they can be fixed.
I was really shocked and taken back by the response to that post. Actually, I was probably just expressing myself in a public forum, and I had messages from all over Australia, asking if we could do their pool. Some had the opinion that there wasn't any good builders, and you've changed our opinion. And it was just, I was really shocked, because I was just being honest and saying things go wrong. You're going to be a builder of any type, no matter what process you have in place. It's going to happen. It's just how you deal with it. And if anything, it probably strengthened our brand, which is not the intent was, but I was really surprised.
Yeah, the same deal with the guys who drilled through the pipe on our job we're working at. Like, they told me straight away about it, that it happened. So, if they're dodgy, they would just cover it up and hope that nothing comes of it. But that's another thing, having relationships with people who are honest.
Sometimes you can actually get a better result from something that goes bad, because if a job goes to plan, it's great, that's expected and that's smooth sailing. If something goes bad and you put your hand up and you own it and you deal with it, you probably get even a higher level of respect from the client.
Yeah. All right, Joel, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate you coming on.
I think, Joel, it's been a privilege and pleasure.
Good on you.